All societies are experiencing this increasing sense of fracture. These divisions are happening everywhere. We're seeing spiralling violence in many countries. Seeing that commonality and realising this is moving really fast, it's really dangerous. We need to understand how we adapt and change. Otherwise, at every level, we lose.
British Member of Parliament Jo Cox was attacked in her constituency in Northern England. Local media say a man shot and stabbed her in Burstall, near Leeds, where she was meeting local people.
Jo was my closest friend who was an MP. It was just an incredibly tragic experience and just unbelievable. She was such an inspirational person and so good at bridging people, different groups. She was on the Labor side of politics, but it was just amazing and wonderful the way that a whole lot of Conservatives came out in support of Jo, very generous in helping to start the Jo Cox Foundation. It was also a really positive experience of how our differences are just not that important. We were keen to keep this alive so that the values and the causes that she fought for would be strengthened. More in Common is an organisation that focuses on how do we strengthen connections and trust between people. So in a world where the forces of division are growing and having impact all across different societies, we're specialists in working out how do you strengthen the glue that holds societies together. And the name More in Common for the organisation, that actually comes from Jo's first speech in Parliament.
And whilst we celebrate our diversity, the thing that surprises me time and time again is that we are far more united and have far more in common than that which divides us.
The forces that drive division in societies are getting stronger, and the forces that hold people together are weakening. Societies are healthy when those forces are in balance. You know, there's always division. Some extent in societies, there's always connection, but they're getting out of balance, and there's a bunch of things that are driving that. Some of it's about how our labour market and jobs are changing and the economic insecurity that comes from that. It's about the demographic change, the pace of change in terms of technology. A big thing is social media that sort of elevates a lot of extreme voices. There's a lot less trust as well in all of our institutions, in business, in government, in leaders, in media. And we should be anticipating that this is like our generational challenge. The forces that are driving division are very strong, and so we've got to think long term about how we deal with them. This is where having good evidence-based research can be really helpful. What we have universally found is that the proportion of people who strongly identify with either extreme of any number of controversial debates, it's small. It's typically 5 or 10% on either side. To give you an example, we recently did a study of attitudes and understanding of history among Americans, and it's really striking the proportion of Democrats who think that Republicans don't think that Martin Luther King was a hero or Rosa Parks was a hero. And then you get the numbers back, and actually 9 out of 10 Republicans think we should be proudly teaching about the civil rights era. And on the other side, the proportion of Republicans who think that Democrats, don't think we should teach the Constitution or think that, the Founding Fathers should be covered with shame, whatever. No, I mean, the proportion, again, by a factor 3 to 4 times, you get this gap between the reality and what people expect. And that's because part of what happens as societies divide is they buy into these silly caricatures of the other side. There is always kind of narratives of fear, but they are stronger now. They are more penetrating. And I also think there's less things that make us feel secure. So we're less connected to our friends, our neighbours. And if you have belonging with a group in a healthy way, that can give you a sense of, all right, well, even if there's a lot of uncertainty in my world, at least I know there's some other people who've got my back and we can face this thing together. What we're seeing now is so many people feeling disrespected, that they're not valued in society, that they don't have a role. And so they're going to the wrong places for that. They're buying into group identities that are defined by hate or fear of another group rather than by a positive set of values. What's interesting is how quickly, if you flip those dynamics and someone feels valued or listened to, and you give them a sense of they're important, they're part of something, then that can really change quickly. And I really believe that if you can find that way, that kind of common ground, that sense of being respected and shared values, then the dynamics can actually transform really, really quickly. And having seen that happen in lots of different cultural contexts, different places, different times, I've become really confident that despite, we have this bleak picture of division, there's also, if we can find ways to kind of facilitate those sorts of connections, we can really change these dynamics. Division's not a new thing. I mean, this is like a fundamental thing about humans, that we have this impulse to connect, we have this impulse to oppose or to be tribal. What's important is realising that this is not an impossible thing that's never been faced before, but the dynamics that we're dealing with, which are driving division, are actually going to grow stronger before they weaken. And the question then becomes how we respond to that and how we strengthen things that connect us, that build our resilience, and helping people and developing really a kind of a new generation of leaders who can navigate this and elevate us above that kind of binary division. That, I think, is the key. And if we can change those dynamics and put ourselves out of business, we've won.